Hello and welcome back to Oxygen Not Included. Let's play episode 163. This is take 2 of this episode. In the previous take, I forgot to turn my microphone on, so it was just me playing silently. I had to go back to an old save, and I skipped ahead a little bit. I could have gone back to either cycle 679 or 680. We went to 680, and so there's some explanation that I have to do. And really, this is a good thing because I don't think I've actually sat down and really explained how this build was supposed to work from the start. So let's just start from the beginning. What is this sort of easy bake petroleum cooker supposed to do? What is it supposed to look like? So the plan is, really early on, like as soon as you get an atmo suit, you can build some atmo suit docks and dig your way down to magma, right? And what you do is you set up some sort of like heating pad, whatever, some sort of heating element that is connected to the magma. And in this case, we've just used obsidian. Obsidian is going to be a pretty common material. We should have a lot of it. We used obsidian because it has a higher melting point than igneous rock. And so even if we just let this go all the way up, even if we let it perfectly equalize with the temperature of this magma, the obsidian wouldn't melt. You could use other things though, because again, like using obsidian here, as long as we have some oil to start soaking up heat, the highest temperature this is getting to is 760. So we could be using metal tile here or something a little bit more conductive if we wanted this to go faster. We could use insulated tile if we wanted this to go slower, but I tried that at the beginning and I think it was a little bit too slow. But we could set up a whole thing. We could have fins in here. We could have all sorts of, what are they called? Temp shift plates. We could have a bunch of temp shift plates here. Like this whole bottom here could be just a bunch of temp shift plates as opposed to tiles, as long as we have some sort of connection with the magma here and no like direct contact with that, because that would be heating things up too quickly. But basically we create some sort of heating element that is connected to this big thermal reservoir in the form of this magma. And then the next thing we do is we go and we find some pocket of oil like we did over here, and we dump it onto here. That way the oil can start heating up. And then the next step, after having dug out and insulated this place and dumped some oil here with this heating element, is we want to create sort of a way that we can add new oil in without allowing the heat to kind of escape, right? Basically, we want to boil this crude oil into petroleum slowly, which will eventually happen, right? Like this 15/1600 degree magma is slowly reaching thermal equilibrium with this crude oil, right? And once this crude oil reaches 400 degrees, it's going to turn into petroleum. And the idea is that we're going to have the level of the crude oil be around up here. That way, when it does turn into petroleum, it will just sort of skim off the top because petroleum is a lighter element, right? So that's the plan here, is that we're just going to start skimming petroleum off the top. It's going to dribble its way down into a storage area where we can have cooling and other stuff. This is something that we would set up later. This is like the first part that we had set up as soon as we got the tech to do so, and then we could set up the cooling later. But we would skim off the petroleum and put in new crude oil. And the trick is we don't want our entire oil biome to heat up as well, right? Because if we look at the thermal conductivity of magma, it's pretty bad, right? It's thermal conductivity of 1. We've chosen a tile that also, has thermal conductivity of 2. The oil, meanwhile, has a thermal conductivity of 2 as well. So as heat travels across this obsidian tile, it's just as quickly going to travel across this crude oil and then up into this stuff. And this is going to be a slow process, which means by the time this reaches like 400 degrees, this stuff is also probably going to be around 400 degrees if it's left in thermal communication with all this. So the next step, right, you go down, you dig out however large of an area you want to use, you build a heating element, you connect it to the magma, it starts heating up, then you go and you find some oil, you dump it in here, it starts heating up, right? And the next step is to have, wherever you're generating your oil, and we have a lot of it because of this oil well and the slicksters and all this other stuff, but wherever else you were getting your oil, presumably, you would then set up a series of doors, right? Now, I've made these out of steel. I've made this one out of steel at least, which isn't really necessary. I kind of do some of this stuff as a precaution whenever I'm dealing with like high temperature stuff. Like if they changed mechanized airlocks so that they would overheat, or if they were subject to pressure, right? Like some tiles can break if they're under enough liquid pressure. I don't think mechanized airlocks do. I'm pretty sure they don't. But I've made this out of steel. In practice, though, you wouldn't need to make this out of steel. You could make this out of any metal that you had available, right? Because they're not going to suffer overheat damage, and you're not going to reach the melting point of whatever metal you use. But we're basically going to set up 3 doors, right? And right now I only just have this one because I kind of want to get this stuff out of here, but I'll build the other 2, actually. I think that's a good idea. And the idea is that with these 3 doors, you are going to be able to thermally seal off your entry point of this crude oil from the... Actually, did I want to set it up here? I think I didn't want to set it up here. I wanted to set it up here. So I want to actually open this door and then build it up here. Yeah, let me do that. Yeah, so we're going to set this to above, and then we're going to say base, mechanized airlock. Again, I'm going to use steel because I'm just being cautious, but we could be using any of this. We could be using iron ore because this is not a building that suffers from overheat damage. And we're just going to build one here and one here. And then we want to go ahead and have some automation wire. I have this one going up, but we're gonna have to do that a little bit differently. We're gonna run some automation wire. What is going on? Like so. And basically what we're gonna do here with this system of doors is when we want more oil to flow in, right? When we want more oil to flow in, we are going to open all the doors and the oil will pour down. And we want to seal this off. We're going to close this door, close this door, close this door, and then open this door back up, right? And that'll create a vacuum here, which will seal in any heat. So this door might still heat up, but it's not going to overheat, and it's not going to reach a temperature. I don't think it's going to reach a temperature where if we send more crude oil in, right, this will just like flash into sour gas or even into petroleum. I don't think it'll get that bad. Like we kind of want to keep this channel relatively cool. We want the petroleum to be generated over here effectively. But this is going to keep the heat from distributing itself all the way to the rest of our system. And then the next step, of course, once you start getting your petroleum, is you would then set up your cooling system. But like the initial steps of putting down this ceramic tile, setting down some obsidian tile or metal tile or whatever you want your heating, how efficient you want your heating element to be. This is all stuff you can do right at the start, right as soon as you have dug down here and have your atmo suits and everything like that. And then you can pursue these other things like opening a pocket of oil to dump on here, or finding a source of oil that you're going to input and building a little door input system, and building a coolant system over here. That way, when the hot petroleum gets over here, you can cool it down to a temperature where you can safely build a pump and pump it out. Like there's a bunch of steps, but the first step can be done right away, and it's just going to slowly start heating up this oil, and you're going to have a good amount of time before you have to deal with that oil turning into petroleum. Basically, you go down here as soon as you have the atmo suits, you start your little easy bake petroleum cooker, and then by the time you need the petroleum, it's starting to be produced, and you just have to solve the problem of cooling it down to a reasonable temperature, and you're good to go, right? That's the plan here for this build. So I'm going to set up this, although we don't necessarily strictly need to, but I'm going to set up these mechanized airlocks, and I'm going to go ahead and have it so that we can see this whole thing in action in case I want to show it off. We're probably not going to need to dump too much more oil down here. Like I have this draining out into here. We'll dump a little bit more, but we just want to get it up to this level, right? Once we get it up to this level, we're just going to leave it. We'll go and do other things, and we'll see kind of how long it takes for exposure to one tile of magma to heat up a large body of oil like this. And of course, if you want things to go faster, you can always just have more thermal contact between the magma and the oil, right? For example, we could have dug out this entire thing of abyssalite here and had the magma covering basically the entire bottom. We can create more exposure by making another sort of heating element right here and exposing it to this magma, right? We have options, and depending upon how fast you want things to go, you can change that. In the beginning, I'm expecting that we're just going to have a little bit of contact, right? If we were doing this for real early game, right? If we were doing this for real early game, I think we would just have a little bit of contact because we wouldn't even have oil here yet, right? We'd still have to go and dig out another pocket. And even after we put that pocket of oil in there, we wouldn't have this gigantic reservoir of oil that we've built up, right? We would have like another pocket that we could open up, but we wouldn't have this gigantic slickster ranching operation. We wouldn't have an oil well up and going. All this stuff is stuff that would come later. So because the amount of oil that you have would be relatively small, right? You wouldn't want to heat it up too fast, because if you heat it up too fast and weren't able to get more oil in time, this oil would turn into petroleum, and then it would turn into sour gas, and you would not get the petroleum that you wanted. So that's the general gist of this system. We're pretty much done building it. We're going to check in on it later, though. And I think also maybe this episode I want to tackle what the cooling system could look like. What is an easy cooling system? Because we do have some engineering challenge there. I suspect at the end of the day, our cooling system would end up looking something like this, right? Like we wouldn't necessarily need to do anything crazy. We would just use aqua tuners or something of that sort. Or we could use hydrogen with thermoregulators. Those would work. But as long as we had somewhere where we could start dumping heat, we would be fine. Like we could grab one of these nearby cold biomes, set up a thermo aqua tuner somewhere in here, and then start pumping cold down to our storage area. In any case, I want to finish this up, and then I think we'll focus a little bit more on space. But that's the gist of it. Hopefully that makes it clear what this build actually does, because I just realized I never really sat down and explained this whole thing. You dig down here as soon as you have an atmo suit. You build some area with proper insulation and a heating element. You expose the heating element to magma. You start finding oil to put down here. Once you run out of the pockets of oil and you're doing this some sort of continuous oil source, you build this sort of triple door system. That way you can contain the heat while still being able to input crude oil. And that's the way it goes, right? And ideally, this will generate the petroleum here. We won't get petroleum generated here. It'll start basically generating on this end. It'll rise up. It will kind of spill off, and then more fresh crude oil will come in from here to replace it, and the circle will repeat itself, and we'll just keep on getting more and more petroleum in this area here. That's the idea. That's the ideal. It's going to take a little while for us to see how well that works, but already we see this heating up to a decent degree, right? We have this around 100 degrees. This tile right now is at around 350. I think this is going to be fine. It's going to take a little while, but that's also the goal of the early game build. It is going to be a slow cooking process, because if you heat it up too fast, then suddenly you're on the clock to build a lot of the other elements of this. Okay, so that's taken care of. Let me do a few other little things here. These are full, so I'm ready to just go ahead and disable this building. Right, we have all these stores full. We can shut off our electrolyzer for now. Also, we want to cap off this area, so let's go ahead and say insulated tile, ceramic, boom, boom. We can also go ahead and queue up some more ceramic, I suppose. Copy settings, boom. And where's our other ceramic stuff? Right here. Get a little bit more ceramic set up. Okay. We also don't have any slime going to these guys. So we could also just say go and dig out some slime. This is all working, right? Yeah, so I think the main thing we're going to tackle with the remainder of the episode, now that I've explained that system properly, the main thing I want to tackle with the rest of the episode is setting up our thermoregulators and starting to work on our whole rocket system over here. Let's also go ahead and queue up some slime digging out, though. Yeah, go ahead, dig out whatever you can get your hands on over here. Looks good to me. Let's dig out over here, I suppose. Any other bits of slime that I care about that are easy to access? They can still access this area through here. I can start grabbing some of this slime. This is all pretty much dead slime at this point. Sure. Dig out this. Dig out this. Grab whatever extra slime so we can sort of support our food a little bit more. Was there anything else I wanted to do before we unpause? I think we're good. Fine with all this. Okay. Let's unpause and let them work on that. Okay. A lot of time spent paused, but I think it was a good explanation of how this build is supposed to work. So now, this system over here. One of the first things we're going to do, we want to start getting our active cooling system online. Oh, actually one other thing, I guess. I need some place to store all this steel. Base. I'm going to go ahead and let things run. Igneous rock is fine. Build some of these. Plumbing. We need first some liquid pipe thermosensors. Make these out of steel. And we're going to say boom, 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 boom. Right? Each of these are going to correspond to their own thermal regulator. We're going to say automation. Automation wire will make this out of steel as well. Hook these up. Does that work? I think it did. Okay. Hook all these up. Then we need to hook up the output pipes. These will be insulated pipes made out of ceramic. Like so. Cool. I think I got all of them. Then we're going to set up some power. Conductive wire. Some steel wire for here. Not that it really matters because wire is not one of these things that'll overheat. But then we can use gold for this. And then we're going to say coal generators. Iron ore is fine. I think 3 ought to do it. We will grab ourselves a smart battery. Make this out of iron. You know what? Make it out of gold. I have a lot of gold. Conductive wire. Gold is fine. Hook up like so. Then let's grab some automation. Automation wire. We'll use gold again. Hook up like this. Okay. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to say that we don't want to cool the hydrogen that's in here too much, right? We don't want to cool it to the point where it liquefies. Did I get water in here again? We want to just cool it down to the point where manufactured material, is that where I find steel? Steel, perfect, okay. And we'll set it to sweep only, copy settings. All right, so now we have a place to move all this steel. And can we mop up this? Let's try mopping up this. Okay. So these liquid pipe. Oh no. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's dumb. Okay. Deconstruct. Deconstruct. Yeah, these aren't liquid pipes. That's a bit of an issue. Okay, ventilation. Ventilation. Gas pipe thermal sensors. Thank you. That's what we want. Gas pipe thermal sensors. Okay, and automation wire, because I accidentally canceled that. Whoops. Okay, gas pipe thermal sensors. We're going to have the hydrogen come in, and we don't want to cool it off too much, right? We want it to be able to not. We want to be able to avoid liquefying it, right? We want it to be able to stay in a gas form, which means we can't knock it down too much, because if we do, it'll break the pipes. Let's hook up these. Okay, cool. We can also change these settings. All right. So this is going to set it so that we can't cool the hydrogen off too much. Also going to go ahead and deconstruct this. Furniture, flower pot, granite. Set one of these up here. Hypothermia. Oh, I see what you're doing. Guys, that's not... What are they going down there for? They're grabbing something. Oh man, this lag. Okay. Maybe I should close this area off. I don't really want people going down here. I mean, I guess they're grabbing eggshells, which is pretty good. They had a new update that changed the way that duplicates interact with water and travel through it. Okay. Yeah, back up here. Yeah, I'll let them walk off the hypothermia. So these sensors are basically set so that when this hydrogen is too cold, right? This system is all backed up now. Ooh, yeah, this system's all backed up. Okay. Yeah, disable these. Turn the system off. I have this all full up with hydrogen at this point. We don't want any more. We're just pumping out hydrogen to, well, here if we're lucky, and breaking our stuff over here if we're not. Yeah, let's go ahead and fix that. Turn those off. I don't need any more oxygen there. Okay. So, these thermo sensors will read when this hydrogen is too cold, and when cooling it would create problems, right? It would liquefy the hydrogen in the pipes, which we don't want to have happen, or in the ducts, I should say. So we don't want that to happen. So we're going to set up these sensors, and basically what happens is the hydrogen is going to go through. If it's cold, if it's hot enough, it will go into the thermoregulator. This will say the thermoregulator is on, right? And it will travel into the input of this thermoregulator. If it is not on, right? If the thermoregulator is not on, instead of going into the thermoregulator, it will take the bridge over the thermoregulator, right, and go to the next thermoregulator, and it'll just continue on. So once this stuff gets cold enough, it's just going to pass through the system and go on to the cooling, right? That's the idea. Also, we're going to want to fill this room with hydrogen. It's the best material that we can use at this point. Let's go ahead and plant this wart seed down. So let's go ahead and deconstruct this. That way we can build from here. And then let's go ahead and say insulated tile. We're going to start sealing off this area. Base, insulated tile, ceramic. Okay, we're going to close these areas off. This is going to be where we have our oil that's getting heated up. This is where we're going to have really hot hydrogen. We're going to have cold hydrogen getting colder going in through here. That's going to cool off our system. Easy peasy. Okay. Looking good. So we're connecting up all the pipes. We have all of our sensors. This system really just needs power at this point and hydrogen. So that's going to be one of the next things that we do. What is my... Okay, we have a pretty ugly system here, unfortunately. This is not how you want to do your piping. But we will go ahead and say ventilation, gas pipe, igneous rock. We're just going to create a line here. It's going to be ugly. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be good. It's going to increase our lag. But I'm lazy, so this is how we're doing it. Okay. All the way to there. Gas bridge, igneous rock is fine. I'm gonna build a gas bridge here. Because I want this actually to be a priority line. So we'll say gas bridge here, and we will deconstruct this gas pipe. And then we'll say ventilation, gas pipe, igneous rock. Go down here. Like so. Then we will gas bridge, igneous rock right here. And then we will we'll set up a vent right here, and we'll fill this room with hydrogen. That is the plan. Okay. I think we've made some pretty good progress for this episode. Let me just go back down and check to make sure that we're building everything that we need for our easy bake petroleum cooker. No wire connected. For now, let's just go ahead and hook up automation. Whoops, no, automation wire. Hook up to here. Have them build this one, and then we should be good to go, right? We'll have our input system for this whole oil thing, right? The crude oil will slowly rise, as we see here. Because of the way we set up these doors, we should be able to get it up to here pretty easily, right? And slowly we can start pushing out stuff and get it to slop over to here. Oh man, there's a lot of slicksters. New printables available. What do we got? Well, none of you are diver's lungs, so we'll take some glass. We're only taking diver's lungs, people. Okay. Yeah, we'll build this last door, and then we'll just let the oil settle, I think, is the plan. Yeah, I really shouldn't be letting this overflow. Well, we have this all sealed off now, so this should just contain itself. This is just awkward. We'll live. Okay. I think it is time to cut the episode. And this we're just going to leave alone for a while and see what the progress is like. Right, temperature's already gone up to 102. Here it's staying relatively colder. Like a 10-degree difference is pretty good for us, actually. Yeah, we're just going to leave it like this. We're going to let this oil drain out. If we need more, we can open this door just by hooking things up. And then we can close these. Should be good. Yeah, and I just want to see kind of how long it takes to heat up this oil and whether or not the mechanic works the way that I hope it does. All right, cutting things here. I'll catch you guys next time.